Hi, this is Costa. This is my project School Outreach for Tobacco Use Prevention. It's a systematic review project as part of my thesis at Concordia University of Nebraska. Before proceeding with this presentation, I would like to see overall how tobacco use is dangerous to this world. 6 million people die every year from tobacco use. And tobacco is still the leading cause of preventable death in the world. In the United States by itself, 480,000 Americans die every year from tobacco use related disease, whereby 3,800 adolescents smoke their first cigarette every day. So from this picture we can see how tobacco use is a huge challenge to public health. This research has two main objectives. The first one is to assess the impact of peer relationships in smoking behaviors, that is among adolescents. And the second is to see if peer relationships can be used to prevent tobacco use. This brings up two questions. And the first one is, are peer relationships major influential factors of adolescent tobacco use behaviors? And the second is, how important are positive peer relationships in promoting tobacco use prevention? So these questions, they're the one we need to answer in order to see if the school outreach prevention and tobacco use among the adolescents can be effective. For any behavior, it's very important to understand what caused the behavior and to assess all the factors that might be the catalyst of that behavior. In this sense, I first developed a theoretical foundation basing on ecological system model to understand tobacco use behavior among the adolescents. So the four parts of this ecological system, which include the macrosystem, mesosystem, microsystem, and exosystem, can help to understand the environmental factors that surround the individual, especially the adolescent, in smoking behavior. To find the evidence, this research used existing published papers that would provide evidence to answer the questions. Inclusion and exclusion criteria were developed with the purpose to govern the selection of primary studies. The initial search came up with 81 abstracts. 62 of them were found to not compromise with the study's inclusion criteria, and then they were excluded, while 19 with a high quality were considered for final review, and the one that this research used to assess all possible evidences that will support or reject our hypothesis. After having in place the 19 included studies, I grouped them into sections basing on the keywords of the project, which are peer relationships 1 and 2 is tobacco use behaviors, all among the adolescents. The reason of this grouping process was to have deep analysis focusing on research questions which involves the two major contexts previously mentioned. Research indicated that friendships among adolescents have strong influence in the adoption of behaviors. On tobacco use behaviors, there are evidence that showed that youth under 19 years constitutes the first generation of smoking groups. These are the major findings of this project, and all were supported by the evidence collected from the 19 included studies. Despite of important evidence this research obtained from included studies, The research encountered some limitation which led to a non-proof of generalizability and the validity of the study. For example, some of the included studies were conducted in different countries with different demographic backgrounds, and others were conducted outside of the school environment, which is one of the major points of these studies, which is to conduct a study focusing on school environments. Thus, was very difficult to generalize. The other point is there was no specific evidence found to show how peer relationships is correlated to tobacco use. Thus, there was no sufficient evidence to prove the validity. Considering the limitation previously described, plus the risk of tobacco use behavior among the adolescents, I found the following recommendation very crucial to understand the correlation between peer relationships and tobacco use. They should be further studied to determine the cause of tobacco use among adolescents. Also, any study that will assess possible influence from peer relationships to the use of tobacco will be very important. A research that will help to determine if a peer relationship in a school environment can be used as a strategy to eradicate smoking behavior among youth, that will be also very crucial. That's my presentation, and I hope that will bring some clarity and will pave the way to other researchers to reduce the prevalence of tobacco use among our adolescents. Thank you.